you. I'm going to start the 4-minute timer. So if you're watching this down the road, you can skip on ahead about 4-ish minutes and we will get into a discussion with Mr. Mac Butler. But for now, you're going to have to sit through 4 minutes while we let some folks jump on and let Facebook and YouTube do their thing and notify people that we are live. As folks jump on, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know. Give me a message, a comment to make sure everything's working, that you can hear me all right. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. Glad to be with you today, Michael.
Well, thank you for joining me. I know this has become kind of an odd thing that's becoming more and more normalized in Etowah County. People getting on the internet and talking. I know you've been on Kapow a couple times and talked to those guys. And I personally, I think it's pretty cool that I guess you'd say we got a couple talk shows, if you will.
Y'all have filled the void because we used to have local talk radio and we don't anymore for us local. And it has filled a need that needs to be there. The only thing we need to do is, as pretty as it is today, we ought to move the studio outside. Enjoy this.
I hear you. Although, and a fair warning, if you're not weather aware, go check out what James Spann says is coming. So we are getting the calm before the storm right now. A great day maybe to go have an outdoor lunch. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to be stuck in here most of the day. So, guys, again, let me know that you can hear us. I don't want to end up doing this whole thing and the audio is awful out there. And don't forget to like and share, tag a friend that might want to watch and hear what Mr. Mac Butler has to say about his thoughts on Etowah County, and going and representing us in Montgomery, taking another trip down there. So guys, really, I'm begging you, just a comment that you can hear me. I would appreciate it. Or maybe my gear's not working, which is another possibility. So nothing worse than technical difficulties when we have these things. All right. Well, we'll give it another minute or so for folks to jump on, and maybe somebody will let me know that I'm not just talking into a microphone and the audio's not going anywhere. But I think we're looking good. I can double check it myself. All right. So we are looking. It is working for us. We'll give it just another minute. So what else are you up to today on the lovely Wednesday?
Well, we're an electrical contractor, and we also develop and manage real estate. And
okay.
So all that is all very busy.
Gotcha.
It's amazing how much is going on. Now, obtaining materials is another story.
Yes, that is a whole other show from almost everyone I've talked to. I know at Bucks Island with dealing with boats, talking to boat manufacturers, talking to
issues from getting anything.
Yeah.
Breaker panels, light fixtures, insulation, sheetrock, anything is really tough to come by. And what you do get, you're paying 3 times what it was.
Well, we're going to try not to dive down the rabbit hole of the economy we're facing, but the one thing that I'm very thoughtful of right now, with all that seems to be going on in our country as a whole, and to that point in that discussion is how important small community is, and being neighbors and taking care of each other. We go back to thinking about 2008 and the issues that we've had in the past, and not saying that that's necessarily what's coming. I know that's a whole other conversation, but it certainly makes me very thoughtful of how much we really need to worry about taking care of each other.
Absolutely. And small businesses are so important to the community. That's who sponsors your ball teams.
Right.
And now with Amazon and all it's tempting to click here, but we do need to support our local mom and pop shops.
Yep.
Greatly so. We have so many good restaurants owned by mom and pops. We have some great national chains too, but it's important to support these people because you go to any ball team, go to a ball field, and you'll see it's all the local folks that are sponsoring those teams.
All right, we're saying you're having trouble hearing Mac. Let me. No, I can help that.
And I'll move in closer if I need to.
Let's see if that's any better. Thank you, Hal. All right. Well, then let's get rolling with this. So guys, if you haven't seen the discussion I had with Carolyn Parker, she was the first candidate. I'm going to try and maintain kind of the same format through all of these, just so that there's consistency. Same reason we sent out the same list of questions, which, by the way, Mack's questions are live on the website, and I appreciate you taking the time to answer that and share your thoughts on the issues. And so what we're going to basically do is talk kind of along the same lines of those questions and the core issues. Some general thoughts. A lot of this stuff we could create hours and hours and hours of discussions out of, so we're going to try to avoid that. If you guys do have any questions, then throw them in the comments, and we'll see. I'm going to do the best I can. If it works in, then do that. We'll thoughts, comments are appreciated. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So let's start with Mac Butler, run for House of Representatives. For going back, you've previously served down in Montgomery, correct? Yes, so let's start with some context of the 2-minute version of who is Mac Butler. Not just the politician, but kind of, let's give everybody that may not know who you are, folks that may not have been paying attention like I was, a year and a half ago. Who are you? What are you, when
Sure. Well, it's interesting that we're downtown Gadsden, Broad Street. I actually began my career downtown Gadsden in 1974 when I was 11 years old. I worked for the Gadsden Times, and my paper route was downtown Gadsden at that time. From a very young age, I always played with wires and batteries and electrical things, and blew up a lot of stuff, and booby trapped my sister's rooms and things like that. But graduated Gadsden High School. Actually went to, back then it was called vocational school. I took it in school. Had an incredible teacher named Johnny Parker, and he actually took me and some others, mentored us. We would, on the weekends and summers, we'd work for him doing electrical work. And at 21, I was the youngest master electrician in the state of Alabama. Married at 21, and at 22, my wife and I, been married less than a year, quit my job, and we started Butler Electric.
Okay.
Fast forward, in 2000, we started Butler Properties, and we've been in business now for 37 years and been blessed by God. If it ended tomorrow, we've had a great time and been blessed richly, have an incredible team surrounding us. But I've had a lot of cool jobs: state representative, board of education, PTSO president, coach, deacon, scout leader. But the coolest job the good Lord gave me was being dad. Mm-hmm. And I'm dad to 4 incredible children: Morgan, Caleb, Connor, and Carson. The youngest are identical twins. But that is probably the biggest calling in my life. If you had ever told me I'd been involved in politics, it's because of my children. Connie was involved at John Jones Elementary as the room mother, real mm-hmm. involved. They drafted me to be the PTSO president, got real involved. I was drafted from that to run for the Board of Education. And it's funny, back in 2002, Etowah County was a Democrat county. And people are like, "You're a Republican?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm a Republican." And people were trying to get me to run as a Democrat. I said, "I'm a Republican. I am a Republican because I am pro-life. Every life is precious, created by God." And my mother instilled me my pro-life values at an early age.
Okay.
So I ran as a Republican in 2002, the only contest in the entire county we won. I was reelected in 2008. And then 2012, I ran for the Alabama House of Representatives and won, and was reelected in 2014. I did not seek reelection. I ran for the Senate, and a number of things happened, and I came up short on that. I still feel extremely called to serve. And I am a liberty guy. I'm a freedom guy. Anybody that follows my Facebooks know I love the founding of this country. Our founders were not perfect men, but they were incredible men, God inspired. The handprints of God on this nation are all over from our founding documents, from the Mayflower Compact, which says, by the way, they came in the name of Christ for the discipleship of Christ. And that inspired the Declaration of Independence, which has 4 references to God, which inspired the Constitution based on biblical principles.
Okay.
But you go through that. I'm a textualist and believe in the actual wording. But all that I've sat back and watched, and a lot of people think we have 3 equal and separate branches of government, and that is false. I was in a debate at the Honors College, University of Alabama in 2015 with a professor, and I asked that question to about 200 law students. How many learned we have 3 equal but separate branches of government? Every hand went up, and I stepped back and said, whoa, you guys really need to read the U.S. Constitution, or at least read the Federalist Papers.
Okay.
By design, our founders created the courts a bit weaker and the legislative branch a bit stronger. And because, they're closest to the people, can be recalled the easiest. And I said, think about this, guys. Your courts have no monies and no armies. The executive branch only has a sword, but the legislative branch has the power of the purse. It's the only branch that can legislate all by itself. It's the only branch that can impeach the other 2 branches. It's the only branch that can, declare war and raise taxes. And you would call these equal? And the professor goes, guys, he's actually right. Most people have never heard what I just shared with you. In reality today, we, the people, the legislative branch has allowed the courts to become by far the strongest branch. The legislative branch has allowed them to legislate. They have allowed the executive branch to legislate. But my point is, during all the mandates and shutdowns that were 100% unconstitutional, the only people that could have reined in the executive edicts are not law.
Gotcha.
Executive, and so, getting into that,
Yep.
I hate sure I need to wrap up, but my point is, I was screaming on Facebook because even in conservative Alabama, we allowed our governor to shut down our churches, but keep liquor stores open, shut down churches, but keep abortion clinics open, shut churches and small businesses, but keep Lowe's and Home Depot open. Bottom line, those with lobbyists were made to stay open. Where was our legislature in this?
Yeah.
I was screaming. They were the ones. She had 60 days of emergency authority, and when it exceeded the 60 days, she didn't let up one bit.
Well, all right. So
the legislative branch is the most powerful branch, and I plan to go back and fight for you.
All right. So that, I think, is a good synopsis of who Mac Butler is. And so hopefully, guys, right off the bat, if that doesn't give you some perspective and understanding of the way you're viewing, your attitude of what you want to do in Montgomery. So that's, so there you go. If you've got questions, so I did see one comment. Somebody did mention, or Lacey Robinson.
I love Lacey.
Our top
graduated high school with
our top electrical student.
Yes.
So
we both graduated Gadsden High School in 1981. We both were electrical students. Lacey's an electrician. He's not sharing that with you.
Gotcha.
Way back there. His daddy was a coach, Coach Robinson at DSQ that a lot of us had, and he actually paddled me one time.
Gotcha.
He was a great guy.
All right. Well, I don't know what the statute of limitations of paddling. Maybe not best to put that on the internet these days. We'll get Facebook to shut us down. So, anywho's, all right. So let's move through the issues, the questions. Okay. And we're going to talk through what we with Advanced Etowah have kind of outlined as core concepts, core issues that we see as some fundamental foundation things. Obviously, as we go through talking, there may be some things specific to. Now, of course, you're representing a larger group of people than say like a city councilman, so you've got a little bit bigger perspective. But if there are things that are unique to your specific district, that is what we really want to talk about, is how it all works together. And with Advanced Etowah, and I talked about this yesterday, and I'm going to talk about it again and again and again. There's a lot of issues in Etowah County. I used the Humane Society. I know that's near and dear to a lot of folks' hearts. There's a lot of other similar issues that are all valid and important. What we with Advanced Etowah have kind of come out of this rendering plant thing with is the concept of raising the quality of life for Etowah County, which translates ultimately and most importantly nearest to us is getting business growth that creates better paying jobs,
Sure.
not just more jobs. So that's kind of the context of the conversation that we're having. So I don't want anybody, and I say a lot of that so that I don't want anybody to think that we're trying to dismiss the other issues that are out there. But there's only so much time that we can talk. And I want to try and keep folks focused because, we've really, I think that's what we really need to talk about as a county. We need to focus on moving that needle to increase the quality of life and increase the household incomes of our community. So that being said, let's real quick, we'll touch on the rendering plant. And guys, again, Max got all of his information. That's one of the first questions that we asked was your role in the rendering plant. And I don't want to get into a ton of detail with that, but you were an intervener.
Yes, sir.
All of that's very public record, and you were pretty outspoken.
To prove it.
Yes.
Spent many thousands of
yes. And so I will, maybe this is a softball. I'm going to get accused of a softball interview, but I'll definitely say thank you from our perspective for being willing to be a part of the fight. And that's one of the things through all of this that's really encouraged me. And I hope people can get the concept that what has occurred is people that have the money, that have been willing to invest the money, all the way to people that don't have the money but have time and are willing to invest the time. Like so many people came together.
And this community did come together in an incredible fashion, and it's a perfect example because we are a republic. Right. We have representative government, and our representative government did not represent us. As a school board member, as a legislator, I learned early on that actually I worked for the people. And this is a perfect example that maybe we found two people that were for this, but Rainbow City, Etowah, that was greatly right there, Gadsden, I couldn't find anybody for it, but it was being rammed down our throats.
Right.
As a representative, of the people, where was, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but there was legislation out there that could have stopped this over a year and a half ago. It would have saved Connie and I tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees. But because some representatives were proponents of the plant and not opponents, we're not representing the people.
Right.
They were representing, Gadsden was the only one, and it wasn't even all of Gadsden. It wasn't from the government,
right? Yep.
That was wanting it. It was being rammed down our throat. They were not representing their people. And of course, my representative was not representing me,
right?
And it really touches a nerve. We need people to represent the people, and it's not that hard. Some issues, it's tough to know what the people want.
Yep.
This one. The needle was all the way.
And I hope that everybody, I mean, it's been said, I've said it hundreds of times now over the last year, the rendering plan issue, that's one of the easiest issues that we're going to face as a community. Everything else gets touchy and gray and, 50-50 splits and 60-40 splits and 70-30 splits and becomes harder and harder to navigate, as you talk about being a representative. That's just my opinion. I think, it was kind of a perfect storm.
This was a no-brainer.
Right.
Perfect example. Our congressman, I think originally he was for it, but when he heard the outcry of the people, he got our backs.
Yep.
He had our backs and went with it. And where were our other representatives to do that? And that's, I used to put everything we did in Montgomery on Facebook to let people know what we're doing. And people were amazed that we were there as late as we were. But sometimes on an issue that I did not get any feedback or input, I literally changed my vote from people because it would create a lot of phone calls, text messages, private messages to me, but they would give me input that I didn't have. You read a synopsis of a bill, that was an easy way to know right off the bat, and you could tell people because you only put so much on Facebook of what it is.
Right,
I try to give a brief synopsis, but it's funny because so many most of Montgomery doesn't work for me and you. They're working for special interest.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing when you find that out. Just like when we talk about representative government, a few years ago, our representatives that all said they wanted to speak for us and represent us went straight to Montgomery and ignored 85 to 90% of us and passed a 60% gas tax. They also passed a perpetual gas tax that every 2 years going to keep on going. That didn't represent me and you. Me as a small business owner, as a family, that hurts greatly. But that happened, our property taxes, most people don't know, they were raised. They added a $2 a day late fee on there that we just recently read in the paper about. But that went on over and over and over. They didn't represent us. They represented special interests. And I think most of us are sick of that. And we want people down there fighting for us, not the special interest.
Yep.
I'm supposed to be your advocate on the front lines, fighting for you and representing your values.
So with that, let's transition. So, leadership has been, I think, one of the core issues that has been lacking. It's not across the board with everyone that's in our government locally. We have good folks, and I have said again, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I've seen a lot of comments from folks online about, after this past year, if you're an incumbent, you automatically, get the vote out, and we need, and I would argue that what I really want folks to do and get out of this year is spend time and actually do the research. It's why I'm building a web page that has profiles to make it easy to do the research and get to know who these folks are, who you guys are, and what you are saying, what you're talking about, and then make the decision whether, is this somebody that we need to keep? Is this somebody we need to replace? If two people are running and we don't have an incumbent. So the biggest thing out of all of that is the leadership aspect. And you talk about, the representatives offering leadership in Montgomery, local leadership. I guess to get to a question, why do you feel like you're qualified to be a leader in our community, and particularly leading us, and representing us down in Montgomery?
Well, I have a unique perspective that really started at 11 years of age as a businessman, as a small business owner, as a paper boy. And we literally bought our papers from the Gadsden Times, sold them to you, made a little profit, had to pay our paper bill every month, learned credible lessons. At 11 years old, I had people move off and not pay me. I learned that lesson to deal with. But all through my life, whether working at Jack's Hamburgers or in the electrical business, being on the school board was an incredible experience. And I was president of the board 2 terms. We dealt with 80-something million a year in the budget. I was chair of the state library board, where we gave out millions in grants to the libraries across the state. I was on the electrical contractors board, the state textbook committee. But I've been in many leadership positions, and all that is steel sharpened steel, is honing you. And then one of the biggest things I learned is sometimes to shut my mouth and listen to the people, what they want. Because as a representative, at the end of the day, if the people elect me, I need to do their will on it. I mean, need to do their will and what's going to advance. It benefits Connie and I and our children. We want Etowah County to blossom. How many counties have got a gorgeous, incredible river that runs right through the middle that we're really not capitalizing on? How many counties have Knockalula Falls? It's incredible. Connie and I own a lot of property on the mountain. We own some right across the street from Knockalula Falls that we would love to continue to develop more. I personally think, and I saw a study done years ago where the visitation of the falls is extremely high. On 59, people come, they spend an average of like 30 minutes, $0. They get in the car and they leave. I mean, realistically, we need like a Marriott up there. We need a golf course. We need some high-end things for people to spend money on. Stone Mountain, Georgia was very similar to Knockalula Falls years ago, was a drain on the city's budget, but they turned it over to a private industry that came in there and took it from this level to this level. Sometimes government needs to get out of the way. Government does not do it better. I think private business does. But if we can get enough community-minded people that genuinely love each other and a few years ago, we had a fight with our county and our city. They wouldn't even send their prisoners up here to Etowah County. They were sending them to Boaz and to Etowah, and they finally kissed and made up. We need to come together.
Yeah. Okay.
And all push in the same direction, because it benefits every one of us. If it benefits Gadsden, it benefits Etowah County. If it benefits Rainbow City, it benefits Etowah County. We need to push in the same direction. We have got a brand new mayor in Rainbow City that I am just thrilled with. Joe Taylor is pushing us in the right direction. I think he is truly serving from his heart. He's not even taking a payday for it.
Right.
We need more leaders like that are passionate and love the community. Connie and I have been investing in our community for ages. We love this area. A lot of people are not invested to the level we are. We have a stake in here. We love it. We love taking eyesores of buildings or homes where other people would knock them down and restoring those. We just did 2 in Rainbow City that were over 100 years old, been vacant probably a dozen years, and we turned them into show places. We're doing that in Gadsden all the time. Okay. We get very little encouragement ever from the city for such.
We're gonna get into that. So you're jumping ahead of me. Right. So let's jump into the nitty gritty, because a lot of this, very heady. You talk about concepts of leadership. Can lead you down a path of some very political sounding conversations. Which is not all bad, it is what it is. And, ultimately, I've said that the ultimate leadership in our community needs to be the voters, and those that they elect. So, all right, so let's jump in the nitty gritty, the good stuff. So let's talk about the government structure in Etowah County. Obviously, you're not going to get in and change the way the city of Gadsden is structured, not from, the House of Representatives, but looking at it holistically, what are your thoughts and opinions on, we talked through this past year about, the IDA as an entity representing Gadsden that's a standalone entity that doesn't answer the people. Obviously, that's a clear issue that we have with Advanced Etowah. The airport authority, solely owned by the city, with, no aviators. So in that sense, across the board, and there may be others that you're aware of, what are your thoughts on just the very nature of the structure of how our government is in Etowah County, and how that can hurt us or help us? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we're all stakeholders that all live in Etowah County. We need stakeholders from the entire county in a lot of these positions. And we need to get the brightest and the best in those spots there to complement each other. It was sad when we learned recently that we didn't have a pilot on the airport authority. Thankfully, Ken Robertson, which has been my hero on there, Ken has just been incredible. But wouldn't you think if you're going to have an airport authority, we need somebody that actually is a licensed pilot? That's a no-brainer. We need to get away from political appointments and the good old boy system. Mm-hmm. And so much of that is everywhere. And there are some people that are very popular and very nice, but they're not suited for the position. Mm-hmm. The reason you fill out a resume or a job application is because the past is indicative of the future, just like the bank asks you for your credit references. Let's get some people that have actually done some things, that have proven results, and bring them to the table. We have got some of the most talented people right here, and some of them, to be involved, just need to be asked. And Ken Robertson's a perfect example.
Right.
When he was asked, sure, he came out there and served, and it probably hasn't been a pleasant experience for Ken, because, man, I've just been amazed that the abuse he's taken, and he's the only guy that knows how to. Yeah. It's landed a plane out there, and I've actually ridden with Ken, and he knows how to do it.
Yep.
That's the kind of people we need there. Wouldn't that be the first person you would get instead of all these political appointments? But if we could get stakeholders from the county, because we don't need this us and them mentality. I currently live in Rainbow City. Connie and I are super invested in Gadsden, but we're invested all over Etowah County. I have a stake, and when I did the school board bill that only offended the mayor and some of the councilmen, to allow the people to have a representative there. Their argument was that I didn't live in Gadsden. Well, I would challenge you that if you add up all the property taxes they pay, of all of them together, multiply it by 20, Connie and I are more invested than they are. And I took it as a slap in the face because I was raised in Gadsden, graduated high school in Gadsden.
Right.
I've had a business license. I mail a check to the city of Gadsden every month for occupational taxes. How about sometimes appreciate you, or something? But a lot of us don't get that. When we built the Dollar General in 2002 on the mountain, we followed all the rules, hired an architect, did everything right. The city of Gadsden passed a construction moratorium trying to prohibit us from building that. You talk about, thankfully, because I'm an electrical contractor, I had bought an electrical permit and bought a permit for my power pole, and it started an irrevocable process. So I beat them with that, but I shouldn't have had to beat them. They should have been encouraged me. That little store, it's been there now 20 years, has done nothing but city, county, state tax. It's been incredible. They just renewed another 5-year lease up there. But another thing is to show you what you deal with. When we were building the building, Gadsden came up there and uncovered a pipe that dumped on our property without an easement. They told me repeatedly, the city engineer, they would take care of it, going to fix it. All these years, over the years, I've had 3 attorneys contact them. They don't respond. But because they're dumping water that has destroyed our parking lot, it's caused all kinds of problems. But you'd think somebody would say, let's fix this. Let's work together. But that's the kind of opposition that so many of us in business, sometimes, they could do some things to just offer some encouragement. And it's offensive sometimes when you see, I know talking to a friend of mine that has a local restaurant, he got no incentives from Gadsden. He sees a national chain that comes, does the same thing, that they roll out the red carpet and giving them tax rebates and all this. Mm-hmm. When the local guy many times does more for the community.
Right.
Then, because they're sponsoring every Baltic. At Butler Electric, we have somebody every single week comes in and that we support. We help all our Baltic, our kids. That's the way they play.
Well, we'll so we're going to talk a little bit more about the overall business environment at the end. But you're touching base and you're hitting on the infrastructure issue when you talk about the that's been another thing that clearly has been a big hotbed topic. We've got a Clean Water Act lawsuit that's out there. Certainly all of us have gotten to know Coosa River Keepers a whole lot more than before.
Incredible group that a lot of us weren't aware of. I actually was, just because I was a legislator.
Yep.
But what an incredible group.
But so now everybody, we're seeing everybody posting.
Leadership would want you to, because Gadsden gets their drinking water out of the river, they'd want a discharge of a rendering plant in that same river you're getting your water from.
So let's talk about that. The infrastructure, which obviously, at the state level, there's access to bigger pots of money.
Sure.
And so what are your thoughts on, issues with our infrastructure, thoughts on prioritization of how we get some of that fixed, and then
because obviously you can't do everything at once,
right?
But if you can come together as a community and prioritize, absolutely we can, and just start here and keep working on it. There are so many monies available. A deck of monies are really easy to get. It's a mixture of federal and state funds that legislators can definitely have a role in.
Okay,
you have to have a grant writer, but there are so many things that people that know how to work and that will actually show up and do their job can do. I get real aggravated people that don't show up to work. I served 10 years on the Etowah County Board of Education, never missed a single meeting. I would literally leave my family at the beach, drive back for a meeting, and go back. It's not hard. I drove back and forth almost every day to Montgomery. It's just 2 hours down there. Now, a lot of nights, granted, if stayed to midnight, I would spend the night.
Right.
But I would always carry a suitcase, but most days I came home to sleep in my bed. Because when I went down there, I still had kids in school and I wanted to see them.
So we the infrastructure stuff, I think that's a systemic problem across America. Quite honestly, as you get out there and you travel, the highways and byways, but what's, do you have some specific ideas on, you mentioned the over, or the dumping of chicken rendering. That was one. Obviously, that was one thing that identified as we've got a sewer system that's already not adequate. Everybody complains about potholes around. What are some things that can be done? So you talked about getting fun. If you got kind of an idea, across Etowah County, particularly as an electrician and as a property owner around here, you got any?
There are so many needs, but I like them being prioritized by our municipalities of telling us as a state leader
Okay.
what their priorities are there and working it back that way. And I would like that to move further and bring everybody together. I think we should be meeting, and I had actually suggested this before with all the stakeholders. I know our local school superintendent, Dr. Alan Cosby, said, great idea. Let's meet at one of our lunchrooms like once a month or once a quarter. And we'd have the city councils, the mayors, the pastors, they're community leaders. Sometimes they get left out, but very influential. School board members, but bring everybody to the table and kind of get, a plan. The school board member, we'd have a 5-year capital plan.
Right.
And sometimes we would
Right.
we'd realign that and change it and look back. But if you got a goal and work towards it, I really think the most utilized items we have in this county are Knockaloo Falls and the river that could be an incredible, tourism dollars. That's the beautiful thing about sports parks and things is people come here, they leave money, stay in your hotels, they eat, and they leave. Tourism dollars are great. And one thing Gadsden has done right. Have you ever seen the cabins they built up there? They built a couple of cabins for overnight rentals.
Yeah.
That's a great start. And I think those are beautiful. We've been involved in Gatlinburg with overnight rental and cabins, and people love those in lieu of staying in a hotel sometimes. That should be so much more in zip lines. And like I said, a Marriott and the golf course, things to make a destination. If you go up there, and sometimes some of us live here, it's been a while, the park is nice, but it really, in my humble opinion, needs to be turned over to a private business to take it and literally run it like a business and recruit. But our river could be something,
Oh yeah.
And you mentioned about, we're talking about the rendering plant and the dumping. There's still problems that I'm aware of as a former legislator from the Department of Public Health with, I forget the chemical name, but it was from Teflon and all that. That is still in this river. And, we would get alerts for nursing mothers and children not to drink the water. And, in Rainbow City, it hadn't been very long. We used to get our water from Gadsden. Now we're getting it from a spring in Odenville. And groundwater is always cleaner than surface water. But I just think, how is the mindset that you would even entertain the thought of dumping more into that?
Well, and here's a plug for Thursday night, which I guess is tomorrow night at the Pittman. Coosa River Keepers is going to be up here, and the Southern Exposure. It's a group that creates documentaries. One of those is about the right of fishermen, basically, to understand what toxins are in there for the fish that you consume and all that kind of stuff. So if you are looking for something to do tomorrow night, we'll be at the Pittman at 6:00 to watch a few of their documentaries and then have some general discussion to get more informed, as we've come to know that the group, the folks at Coosa River Keeper are very informed and have some very common sense approaches to having that discussion about, we can do better at protecting our river. So, all right, well then let's move on. So one issue that came about that had nothing to do, quite frankly, with the rendering plant, but simply came up in the, hey, everybody's paying attention and listening, particularly watching city council meetings as they discuss first responders. And it has been a topic that I think is a critical, obviously, safety and a peace of mind that when you have an emergency, when something bad happens, that when you pick up the phone and you call, that there are brave men and women that are going to come and help you. And we're in a situation now where our firefighters, our numbers are down to, critical levels in terms of the level of life support, or life saving capability that they can provide. And I know I don't. I guess honestly, I don't know what all you can do from the state level involved at the local level with our law enforcement and with our first responders, firefighters, EMS here in the community. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on where we stand.
First of all, like pastors, teachers, and first responders, I think most of them are called.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not out there looking.
They're certainly not doing it for the money.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
Most of them are called to get up. And most of our nation's protected by volunteer firefighters. But and these men and women get up, 3 a.m, get a call and jump. They got to be at work in a few hours and going out and doing all this. You have to have a calling on your life. But that being said, we've got to offer the best pay and the best benefits and an environment. And this is something I know a little bit about. I spent 13 years as a reserve deputy with Etowah County Sheriff's Department. Okay. I went to the police academy. I'm APOS certified. So I got to work with some incredible people and seeing firsthand. But, our police officers don't need to be on food stamps. They need to make a good wage and have good benefits. But what we've seen most recently is sometimes nobody has their back. And sure, they need to follow the law too, and there's always an exception. There's
right.
There's a bad person here,
mm-hmm.
wherever you go. But most of these guys, they're our neighbors. We go to church with them. We go to the grocery store with them. We go to school with them. We need to support these guys just like we do our teachers and pastors. One of the things I've loved to talk about is education is so important. And I'm a huge education proponent and career tech. Only 23% of the population gets a 4-year degree. So we need to intervene and find these other guys, the other Mac Butlers out there in the world that were good with their hands. Because the goal is either get them college ready or career ready. We need to get, I think, with our law enforcement, getting the environment they work in, getting their pay, getting their benefits. But I would like to see it go back to the schools where we're doing mentorships, job shadowing. Some areas have, I think it's called Explorers, where they get to go and these are high school students right along. Something our sheriff's department does is called a student leadership. Okay. 2 students from every school of the county go to the sheriff's office. They stay there a week. They live there, and they do every aspect of it. And we used to go in on the ride along nights, and we would take a couple of students with us, and we would do do some traffic stops, go on a few calls, and they got to go. They wore vests, but
right.
But they get to see it firsthand. But you could actually create some next generation. Mm-hmm. I think on everything, just like with, we've actually got a shortage of truck drivers, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, welders. One of the things when I was in the State House that I got to be part of was when Airbus came to Alabama, we needed 900 welders. We didn't have them. And we did some stuff that I loved. It's post-secondary dual enrollment for career tech. So you could go to high school and be in the same time be dual enrolled over here at Gas State Community College, which is an incredible facility. And when you walked across to get your high school diploma, you got an associate's degree at the same time. But these welders at Airbus, starting pay was $50,000 a pop. And our goal is to break generational poverty.
Right.
And get people, a lot of people don't have an alarm clock because generation after generation after generation, nobody's worked. We need to get them working. This, it's unlimited potential, their income. That needs to be our focus because it's so much cheaper to educate a child than it is to incarcerate them. And so many times, if you do not educate them, they wind up being incarcerated. Mm-hmm. But there's so many things that we as legislators can do. Even with the state retirement and all that they're in, we could do things to make it better.
Okay.
We could help foster and create an environment better. These guys are walking in when they literally clock in at night. They don't know that they're coming home.
Right.
And the goal is for that. And some of them, they're making more money at McDonald's or somewhere, and we at least need to thank these guys.
Right.
And you probably do this. I try to do this every chance I can. If I see some police officers eating somewhere, I like to go pick up their tab, just to say thank you, that I appreciate them. The firefighters, you never know. You or either one could be in a wreck today, and it's a first responder that might save us, get us to the hospital or whatever. So many people, so many times would just like to be acknowledged, and you be grateful for them.
Yeah. Well, I hope that they're grateful that there's a lot of people paying attention. I know, I kind of joke as a military guy, it's kind of cliche for us. And I loop military first responders,
Absolutely.
I loop us all in, when somebody says, you don't get paid enough. Yeah, we don't get paid. I mean, but in the case of the $10.38 or whatever that starting firefighter pay, it's
To
legit for
walk
real.
in a
Like, we're not
burning
just a
building.
cliche. It's not just a cliche thing. Shoot, I saw a post. Bucky's is paying $17 an hour now to their associates. So okay. So again, you took that into education, and the discussion of education, and that's another
And I
one of
think you
those.
could really mentor and help
Yeah.
because so many young people would follow into that if that career choice was made to them. Because we've got to have, whether it's a church or a community, you got to have young people.
Yep.
Catch these young people, but we need young people. I just think if we could do that, when we did the student leadership, it was incredible how involved and engaged those students were from every aspect of that.
Well, that's definitely becoming a trend of conversation. The world that I really know is the military side of things, and a big discussion that's being had is that the military, that attitude of service is becoming a family. It's becoming a family job, and there's less and less. There's less and less folks. I mean, you go back 30, 40 years where you had, a national Congress where, I forget the exact statistics, but 50, 60, 70% of people had served in the military, because you're going back to that Greatest Generation and World War II and all that kind of stuff. And the dynamic, now we have basically less than 1% of the nation's populace that serves in any way. So yeah, it's an interesting, exposing people to alternatives and options, but it's definitely something that I think we as citizens in our community need to understand, how critical. And it's not just the cliche thing of, hey, thank a firefighter, thank a cop. The reality is that as I am understanding, I'm trying to get smarter on the exact numbers, but we're getting to a point where we can't man the basic, firehouses that we have
everywhere.
And that's a very big deal. And while it's not necessarily something that was directly related to the rendering plant per se, although the firehouse out at the airport is routinely shut down because they can't man it, which is that plays into a factor of reliability of the safety of the airport. I mean, if I crash a plane, I want somebody there as quickly as possible and all that kind of stuff. But so let's segue. So the education piece is another sector that's kind of, so you talked about that, from the firefighter, the first responder piece, the working with, Gadsden. What are your thoughts on the current state of the education system that we have? Obviously, it sounds like you've got a lot of background. Again, I know we could probably do a 2-hour discussion on this, but as you're looking at what you want to do, what can be done at the state level as a representative, and as a part of the leadership team of the county. What are your thoughts on the education right now?
Our education is the absolute most important, because we get them at such an early age. We have room for great improvement. The most valuable resource we have are our teachers, and we're having a shortage of that as well. We do need the best and brightest. That's somewhere we've got to address a lot of issues. I'm a states' rights guys. We're a sovereign state. You could take Department of fill in the blank and get rid of it at the federal level because it's a duplication. But so much stuff. If you talk to a teacher, some of the paperwork and testing it takes away from instruction time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not near what it used to be when you and I were in school. We're learning a lot. I know as a school board member, I learned that students learn visually. They retain it so much greater than just from lecturing. We know now that school starts too early. That comes from the industrial age. And one of the things that I thought was pretty cool.
My daughter would be a big fan of that
Yes.
concept.
But
So
one of the things that was funny, and I said I was championing this early on, because when I was in school, we called it cheating. But one thing they're teaching now, as a school board member, I learned is that collusion should be taught. You know, because in life, if you got to, you collude with other people,
Right.
And I was like, hey, I was doing that early on. But you know, but really, we know some things that are data driven, but we're still doing. I know when I was on the school board, we started getting Promethean boards and things that are just incredible what the students could do. And we might have a teacher that would say, you know, you need to know all 50 state capitals. And the student would say, well, I can Google it. And the teacher would say, what's Google? And it was funny because used to it was the older teachers that mentored the younger ones. In this case, it was the younger ones mentoring the older ones. But we do have improvements. But the biggest thing we need to do is appreciate and reward and recruit more teachers, make that environment better, but take some of these shackles off of them with all this bureaucratic garbage that we do. And talking back to something that I would love to see as a community, when you talk about community, one of the most important aspects of every community that literally built this nation was our churches. Would love to see churches get more engaged, pastors get more engaged. One of the things, if I speak at a church, I love to close with is our first 4 battles of the Revolutionary War were not fought by the National Army. It wasn't George Washington and his men. When Paul Revere did his famous ride, first of all, he didn't say the British were coming. They were all British. He said the regulars were coming, the British regulars. But he was riding to Reverend Jonas Clark's home. But the first 4 battles, Bunker Hill rode to Boston, Bunker Hill rode to Boston, Lexington, Concord. You know, when he got there, John Hancock and Sam Adams were at Reverend Jonas Clark's home. He's like, they're coming to kill you. And, you know, Reverend Jonas Clark says, hey, me and my congregation have this. The first 4 battles of the Revolutionary War were actually fought by the church. I would like to see the church get back engaged in the battle and get back involved in the community.
That's why you live in the Bible Belt, because we got big armies.
Right.
You know, other parts of the country where you don't. So for all you guys that complain about all the churches we got around here, think about that. Okay, so I'm sorry to throw you off there.
But I think for it is all aspects of the community. When I talk about this this capital plan for Etowah County and all stakeholders, those are the guys we need too. We need our local pastors, our youth pastors, members, our business owners, anyone that wants to be involved. Because the more brains we bring together, the better. Not just a few people going, this is what we're going to do. Like we witnessed, you know, that's the best example of what not to do is the rendering plant. I mean, and literally they were trying to put that in my backyard. It was affecting all of us, but a Tyler Rainbow City, it was right there. None of us wanted it right there. You know, we didn't want it anywhere around us. We want jobs. We want good jobs. We want high skill jobs, and we want low skill jobs because we want everybody to be able to work. Work is good. You hold your shoulders back. It's a positive thing. You know, you see all these things, and you know, if you look, the number one indicator of poverty is a fatherless home. And our government actually provides incentive to remove the father from the home. It happened with Lyndon B. Johnson. It needs to be corrected. But so many positive things. If there's a father in the home, that if he's getting up going to work, he's teaching a work ethic without ever saying a word. If he's loving and honoring, appreciating his wife, he's teaching his kids, boy or girl, what to look for in a mate and how they should act. We have so much chaos going on nowadays because we're literally, I call it living life upside down. We need structure. This week we saw on the news where a bunch of hooligans down at Panama City Beach. If I had done that, Harry Butler would have whipped my rear end when I got home. And we need that. Discipline is born of love. And we need more men to step up and be mentors. I see some people that are divorced and do an incredible job staying involved in their life, but it's important for us to have
Right.
role models,
Okay.
and not a star or a rap artist that's not making the best choices. We need someone to literally get up and go to work every day and to love and respect their spouse.
All right. Well, I guess I'd say preach it.
All right.
But all right. So I think that's a good, some of that's a good segue, or I'm going to make it a segue into the discussion about a countywide master plan. We've talked repeatedly about how the lack of a plan. I know Rainbow City and Southside are currently developing their own master plans. Sounds like they're working fairly collaboratively together in those discussions. But I, as Advanced Etowah, we're looking at it going without a plan countywide, because we're too small of a county, too small geographically. We've got 11, 12, 13 different municipalities. What are your thoughts on a county master plan? How do you bring that to fruition? What can be your role in any of that as a representative?
We can have a big role in bringing it together, because there again, we need that cohesion of everybody coming together. And we start with crime. We start with education. When so many industries come to town, they're going to look at the crime stats. They want to look at the educational opportunities. They want to look at the arts.
Right.
Schools you've got to have. And like we said, we've got 3 incredible school systems here, and we want to keep them all 3 incredible. I've said many times, if we were serious about saving money, we wouldn't have 3 school systems. We would actually have 1, because the duplication of the central office, whether it's superintendent,
right,
personnel. You spend millions of dollars of each central office, and that's something for another day. Yep. But anyway, bring all the components together to get those things the industry would look at. But we need to bring people. We need more Ken Robertsons on the airport authority. We need people like that involved in this master plan that were qualified from. We need the mom with the housewife.
Right.
We need the school teacher. We need the business owner. Bring all those people together. That everybody's got the same vision. But you need to feel safe walking to your car at night.
And obviously, you say everybody having the same vision, and the reality is that we won't all have the same vision.
We could put it on there and prioritize it, like our capital planning. We may move around that this was here, and we're at number 5. Maybe I get that number 3, but move those around. But I know in order to thrive as a community, we've got to be able to be safe, and we need to recruit people. One of the biggest things we've got to have, we got to be able to keep our young people here. If you look what Chattanooga has done when they reinvented themselves, which, by the way, they have an incredible river in the middle, but they became a gig city. We have more and more people that are working remotely. They can work anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. Why not right here in Etowah County?
Well, that's a good question and a perfect segue into kind of the last overarching topic. As we've gone through all of this, we're the end goal for us is the business development, raising the household incomes, recruiting
benefits everyone
the good the businesses that pay. We don't get to the point where we're paying more for everybody. Then there's very little. All the rest of the stuff, the nice parks, chain restaurants, bigger, fancier mom and pop restaurant, all of that stuff can't thrive
to afford your product.
So let's talk about the business environment that exists. Etowah, Gadsden, you already touched on that a little bit with your issues, development on the mountain. But one of the things I've said is, it's kind of silly to me, the number of people like yourself that I've talked to that have had issues with developing a business in the county. Particularly some serious issues in Gadsden, and we've seen, and we clearly documented, of people that have moved their businesses or built their businesses in places like Rainbow City and Etowah and Glencoe and elsewhere to specifically not be in Gadsden because of the environment, and so it's
almost like an adversarial relationship on some of those.
Well, it's funny to me that if we've got that mindset, and it's everybody kind of knows it and everybody talks about it, um, why are we having a discussion about trying to recruit larger businesses in? Because, no offense, but larger businesses are smarter at running business than I mean, that's what got them to, and that's a whole conversation to unpack on all that kind of stuff. But you talk about the things they look at when they come in the community. So everybody sits around, and this is, again, me sharing my opinions and thoughts. Everybody sits around and whining and complaining about why didn't Gadsden get, why didn't Etowah County get skipped again, as we see, these things that are coming to the state of Alabama. And, so how do we fix that, and
Well,
change
we need
the
to
environment?
be the way Gadsden was about Pilgrim's Pride. They need to be about other businesses. They were very welcoming to them. I can tell you firsthand, if somebody's been in business over 37 years, we own a good bit of real estate around, and we like to maintain it. One of our buildings on Broad Street, I talked to the folks, and because I was going to replace a couple of rotten boards and paint them back the same color, a few brickets, the building's over 100 years old. So I sent my guys there, and the city came out there 3 times and shut them down. 3 times. And I thought it was a building department. No, it wasn't them. First, it was some guy coming out there for revenue. Then the next 2 times, it was somebody from the Gestapo, I call them, because you can't. And I wasn't changing the color of my building, but I had reached out and gone through the proper steps, and I was like, this is my building. I'm trying to just make it better, which more people. I've learned it's contagious. If I kind of paint my building, you'll paint yours, and it kind of improves the whole area. But it's like, I don't have to do this. I'm just taking it on my own to do it. But it's just like you're getting harassed for so many things you're trying to do, because a lot of property owners may not have the same mindset that I do, but if they see me painting and fixing and patching, I'm hoping they'll do the same. But it is contagious. If you cut the hedges at your house, your neighbor's like, hey, I'm my grass, because you mowed your grass, looks good. Let's generate that and keep it going and encourage that. Not come out and just harass people, because I can. It's more community. I thought they ought to help some rather than hinder.
What do you, and I think, it's particularly a little more unique. Let's jump up to the higher level of business development, the state level. When you mentioned things like Airbus and stuff like that, how does that work at, sitting in Montgomery? What can Etowah County do to be more open to recruiting those? Because I mean, Airbus is paying a lot more than Pilgrim's Pride. You talk about 900
jobs,
welders.
They're career jobs. People aren't going to stay at the rendering plant their career.
Right.
And those career, we need some more Goodyear's type jobs that people are going to stay for their career. Because when those people are employed, they're going to buy houses, they're going to go shopping, they're going to go to the movies, they're going to hire electricians, hire plumbers. It just benefits and keeps turning over. I saw a city councilman make a statement about the couple $100 million that Goodyear paid. It wasn't going to be a big effect. I thought that proves their ignorance, because that money turns over, and it's many, many, many times that amount that's spent over and over and over. Because that same dollar gets taxed over and over and over, and the city tax that sales tax of you spending your hard-earned dollars. We need people that understand that in these positions, but most of this happens with incentives. It's a bidding war.
Okay.
Who's giving away the farm the most? But a lot of times you can literally give the farm away, because those people are going to be spending the money here, like I mentioned. We just need to do I think a better job of electing people. I mean, putting them in position. They may have a nice smile. They might, be popular, but do they really have they ever run anything?
Right.
Do they literally know? Proof is in the pudding. Just like I talked about the resume, the job application, the credit history, whatever you're doing, have you proven that you really know what you're doing?
Okay.
But I would like to see us come together with the best and the brightest from all aspects, and sit down at a table with appreciation for each other, and moving that same thing. Because I may want this, and I'm number 5, and you want number 1. Couldn't we have that on our capital plan and keep working towards that? If we got the common goal to create an environment where our young people can stay here and begin the next generation and the next generation. Because Gadsden's population, like when I talked about 1974 and I was delivering papers, it's about double what it is now. Gadsden used to be larger than Huntsville, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And Gadsden was an academic powerhouse. It was a financial powerhouse, and it is waning. This needs to be the place that people want to come to.
Okay. Well, let's wrap it up. As you mentioned that, the kind of the question, expectation management, a lot of people, a lot of churn, a lot of discussion, a lot more of us paying more attention to what's going on in our community. And I think it's worth having some discussion about what's the expectation of turning things around, of changing the trajectory of Etowah. And I'd appreciate kind of in closing your thoughts on what's your idea of timelines on how, is this going to be an overnight thing? If you got any,
it's already begun. The fact that you're here, David Chadwick and Trent Thrasher got started that a lot of us hadn't paid attention to. I remember the day Trent called me telling me about it. It's like, you're kidding. But it has already begun. It is taking place as we sit here.
Okay.
The conversation's going. We have got future leaders out there that are thinking, hey, I might run for, we got, of course, these primaries are already set, but in June, City of Gadsden's got a race coming up, qualifying. It's going to be elected in August.
Yep.
We're probably going to see some people step up that never would have stepped up before. So, the wheels are turning.
Okay.
I think it'll be sooner than later.
Okay.
Now, it's going to take a little while to see the results. It takes a while for your population to grow. But if we can retain our young people and then recruit, young and old.
Right.
This is a great.
Yeah, we don't want to just throw all the old people out.
No,
that's not
we need them. Gadsden was built for many years as a retirement community. Yep. We need that, but we need the young people here.
Right.
We need revenue generators here. We need to get Gadsden back. Like when I was a kid, man, there were buses and taxis running all over downtown. As I rode my bike in zigzag, I actually got hit by a car one time downtown here on 4th Street. I wasn't hurt. The lady thought she killed me, but I got up. My handlebars were crooked, and I went off into the sunset.
How did we make it through childhood? I don't know.
We didn't have the helmets and the bubble wrap like they have nowadays. We got skint knees and elbows and just got up and went on. But I think what you said has already begun, and we're going to see it very soon.
Okay.
Going to see some blossoms. I guarantee there's some people right now, young and old. Man, I had never paid attention to who John Floyd was, the gentleman that writes for the Gadsden Times that ran the Goodyear plants. What an incredible individual. I've talked to him on the phone a couple of times. So intelligent. Maybe he'll run. People like that. We need people from all.
I know there's a lot of people that want that.
Man, I was just blown away with.
Before everybody emails him, I know he's. Yeah.
He would be a great position to be on advisory council, though, if nothing else.
Absolutely.
He doesn't want to run for city council or mayor.
Anywhere he can plug in would be an added,
he has such a wealth of knowledge from running, a huge company. He understands the needs of an airport more than any of us. He was a corporate giant himself, flying in and out of places. I remember when Gadsden had shuttle services years ago, but I actually felt like they were trying to close the airport with what they were doing down there. Because I'm thinking, who in their right mind would put that at an airport? You would only put something that would complement aviation.
Right.
Something that attracts wildlife does not complement aviation. Ask any pilot that.
Right.
And so I'm thinking they were so off the beaten path. We need that as an industrial recruitment tool.
Okay.
And we don't need Gadsden just trying to recruit industry. It needs to be Etowah County trying to recruit industry.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll close it up with it. If you've got any final thoughts, and let folks know where they can find out more about you on the web.
MacButler.com or just Mac Butler on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm easy to find. My cell number is actually on my Facebook page.
All right. And of course you can
I'm a community guy.
Yep. You can, of course, go to our, go to advancedetowah.com. There's election 22. You go under that tab and you can hit who's running, and it'll give you a rundown. And I've got all the links.
It's changed in the redistricting. It is now Rainbow City, Gadsden, Etowah, and Gallant and Ively. So if you live in those areas, I would please ask you to back Mack on May 24th.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming in. I'm looking forward to conversations with everybody. Certainly, there have been plenty through the last year that I may not agree with, but ultimately, my goal and my hope, because I think it's ultimately going to pay the most dividends, is that we have conversation, that we have discussion. That's what's going to help us do things like develop a master plan, figure out how to go after things.
Like I say, is the absolute last line of defense, and it can impeach the other two branches, but it can actually block stuff. When Gadsden was going off the rails, we had legislation to do it. Sadly, the team wouldn't come together and support it. Because we could have avoided all this, but that's the purpose of the checks and balances, and we need somebody down there understands that we are the last line of defense. When the governor and the mask mandate was probably a good suggestion. The problem was all over the state there were people arrested for it. I kept telling them there is no law.
Right.
You broke no law. It's a suggestion, but there were people still arrested over it that never should have been. But our legislature was silent. We need somebody that will stand up for we the people. We need an advocate, because sadly most of them go down there as evidence. You can look. They went straight down there and forgot about us and voted for the special interests.
Well,
$62 million a year of existing gas tax revenue prior to that was funding other state agencies. That's why when I was part of the House, I was part of a small coalition that repeatedly blocked the gas tax from even making it to the floor, because I knew about the $62 million of gas tax revenue. They were funding other state agencies. That's a fact. And then when they did this $300 million, they told you it was for roads and bridges. You found out that tens of millions of it's going to the port, which is a worthy project, but why did you lie to me? It's all over special interest. Every bill there is putting money in somebody's pocket.
All right. Well, guys, so as I'll say with any candidate, don't take his word for it. Do your research. Get out there. That's definitely something we did a lot of through the last year, and we need to not quit. The ultimate leadership is us, the voters, and we owe it to ourselves to do a little bit of fact finding, and find the truth. Get educated as best you can, and then be ready to go to the polls. May 24th is the primaries for you guys at the state level and the county commissioners. And if you aren't aware, that's basically the election for all of those seats, because whoever makes it through the primaries, they're going to be the only name on the ballot come election time at the end of the year. So please pay attention. Plan on being out there on May 24th. And again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for what Advanced Etowah is doing, because y'all have become a powerhouse in bringing so much information to the community.
Well, we're trying. We
may not.
We're doing the best we can, and appreciate the support of folks. That's what keeps us involved, keeps us going, is this sense and this feeling, the messages, and certainly the financial support that we've had with donations and stuff. It helps move the county forward or advance. And it's weird times that we live in, I think, in our community. But
and I'm hoping some of the stuff y'all did may have mentored some of our existing leaders and opened their eyes to handle things different and realize they're actually representatives of the people and they need to do the will of the people.
We hope that as well. So with that, we're going to get out of here and get back to work and all the fun things. Guys, be careful with the weather later this evening, but maybe get out and enjoy an outdoor meal in one of our lovely restaurants here in the community. So, guys, hope y'all have a great afternoon. And we will talk to you guys on the next one. More candidate interviews